our media once we have imported it into Sony Vegas. Now, as I said before, you're not actually importing anything, you're just creating links to the original file on your hard drive. But you still need to organize those because you can end up with an awful lot of media very quickly to create very complex projects. Now, the projects that we're going to be working on are going to be relatively simple, but even so, knowing how to organize your project inside Sony Vegas Pro is very important. Now, it's done through what are called media bins, which are effectively folders. The word bin goes back to the days when video editing was done in a linear way. In other words, people were cutting up film and sticking it together in the appropriate format to create the complete film that they were making. A non-linear editor, which is what Sony Vegas Pro is, means that you can edit any bit you like on your timeline at any point in your timeline, going backwards and forwards as you like, which is much more flexible. So this is a non-linear editor, but even so, they still use the old parlance, the old word of a media bin to work out where different bits are going to be stored. And you can see under the Project Media tab, we've got what's called a bin structure. Now, this is the default bin structure, and it allows us to start to organize our different bits of footage into different types. You'll see that there are actually a selection of folders here. You see this little plus icon, click the plus icon, and you can see that we can actually arrange our footage by audio, video and stills, and I don't even need to tell Sony Vegas Pro what that is, it'll do it for me. But at the moment we're at the All Media tab, so that we can now bring in the appropriate bits of footage that we want. Now, we can get footage in a few different ways. As we've seen before, you can go to your Windows browser and you can go to the appropriate place and you can choose a video clip and you can say, right, I want this video clip pulled in, and here is Surf Over Rock, pull it in and just drop it in, or even double click it, and that's brought it in. So that's one way of doing it through your own Windows Media browser. Now, at the moment you can't see it as an icon, you can just see it as a list because I've changed the view. This is the views option, and you've got list, details and thumbnails. If you go to thumbnail, you'll see that it'll come up with an image of what's actually there. Now, at the moment I'm showing all media, but if I go down and were to click on the audio bin, I wouldn't see anything. Because it's video, you see it in the video bin. So it's actually organized that for me. There is also the Explorer, so I can go and find those same bits and pieces in the Explorer. So I've actually got an audio tab here and say I want Another Night Goes By. I could just simply drag it into the media bin over here and let go. And then I don't see it and I think what's gone on, but notice the tab's flashing yellow. But if I go to my audio bin, there it is. And if I go to all media, I'm seeing everything that's inside my project. Another way of doing it, if I was to go to, say, some of my pictures, and I look at this one of Dunstanburgh Castle, I could just add it to the timeline, and that would do exactly the same thing. And I can do that in a number of ways. I can click and drag it down onto the timeline, or alternatively, I can simply double click it. And unless you've changed your preferences, which is something we'll look at a bit later on, it's going to drop it straight into the timeline. You can see it selected with this yellow box around it. So that's actually in my timeline, and if I go back to my media, my project media, you'll see that it's in my all media tab, so I can see all my media. But if I go down to my stills, there it is as the individual still. Now, you might end up bringing in an awful lot of footage, and say your video tab is absolutely filled with different types of video and you want to segregate it up into different types. Well, you can add additional media bins through the media bin structure. If you just right click on the media bin, you'll see that it says create new bin. So if I create new bin and I want to call this one C shots. Okay, so that's now C shots. I can't see anything, but if I was to go to my video bin and take a C shot, which that is, and drag it into the C shots bin, you'll see that the C shots bin has now actually got it in as well as the video bin. So it's actually in both. So let's just bring in a few more. So I'm just going to go to another option of doing it is File, Import, Media. And let's find a couple more that are C shots. So that's a C shot. Now, selecting your footage, when you're actually at this point, can be done with using the Control key or the Shift key. Let me just show you. If I hold the Control key, I can individually click different bits and pieces that I want to bring in. So these are all C shots. However, if I wanted to select a range of clips, say I wanted these three here in a row, I can select the first one and hold the Shift key and select the last one, and it takes a whole series of items in a row. And if I wanted to deselect something or add to it, I would then again hold the Control key and I can actually add to it. So let's add that one too, but let's also add one in that's not a C shot. So we've got some grotty flags flying, so let's just select that one as well, and I'm going to click open, and bring in those selected shots. And then they come, takes a moment to process them, and there they are ready to go. Now, because my C shots bin was selected, they have all come into my C shots bin. So I've imported into whatever was selected at the time. If I'd have had all media selected, it would just have dropped them into the video bin. But clearly I don't want grotty flags in there, so I'm going to click away to deselect, take grotty flags. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create another one for C side, but not C. So I'm going to right click on here, go create new media bin, and call it C side non-C. There's nothing in that one. Go back to my C shots, take the grotty flag, move it across to C side non-C, and you can see C shots has now got it, but C side non-C has got it. When I go to my video bin, I've got them all. So as you can see, the bins can be used to organise bits and pieces really well. But how else can we bring in footage? Well, Sony Vegas can also capture from a camera, which I'm going to do in another tutorial, but we can also bring in recordings from a CD. I haven't got anything fantastic to show you, but if I go to File, you'll notice that one of the options I have under Capture Video is this one that says Extract Audio from CD. We'll come back to Capture Video a bit later. So if I click Extract Audio from CD, you'll see that it's going to come up with an option. There, it's had a look and it's seen that there are 2 tracks on this CD, and I can select one of the tracks and I can play it if I want to. Believe me, you don't want to hear it. And I can also say OK, and it's going to bring it in, and you can look at CD information and all those bits and pieces. So it went and found the CD that was in my CD drive. I can select the item I want. When I click OK, it's going to say, where do you want to save it? Well, if I save it to my desktop, you can also name it. So I'm going to call it my example CD track 1. Click save. It's going to go away and actually take it from the CD. It was quite a short track, so it shouldn't take very long to do that. And there it is inside, and that's now available for me. Now it's brought it into, notice, my media bin C shots, because I still had that selected. And this is something you do need to be careful about. If you're going to bring in bits and pieces, it will put them into any one of these media bins without selecting its type, unless you've dropped it into all media. Okay, if you've dropped it into all media, then it will put it into the appropriate bin. But seeing I don't want it in my C shots, what I can do is I can drag it and take it down to by type, let go, and it's actually going to stick it into my audio bin. There it is in my audio bin. So there's my example CD, and it's on my desktop. And on my desktop, we'll also see it's going to have created, yes, here is the SFK file as well. So there we go, we've got everything created and moved across. So that's how we can get bits and pieces in. And it's very important to organise your footage, particularly when you start creating things like subclips, where you've got an interview and you want to take individual bits out and you want to arrange them into different media bins so you know where to find the clips that you want very quickly. And there is another way of organising footage, which we'll have a look at in the next tutorial, which is to use things called tags and smart